Welcome, everyone, to the Church Solutions Podcast. My name is Phil Thompson.
And I'm Steve Lacy,
Steve, how are you today?
doing just peachy keen.
All right. This is episode number 441. There are no engines with that cubic inch, right?
No, we could move into an Oldsmobile car though here in the next episode.
We'll skip that. Yeah, 442. That's right. I remember those things. Okay. All right. So I want to tell you, we got a great guest here on today's podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we have a brand new webinar coming up. It's happening in September 17th at 12 noon, and it's called From Crash to Comeback. And we're going to talk about 10 steps you can take when you're streaming your church services. And this happens, as we all know, if you've been doing this streaming video, sometimes things don't go as well. And sometimes you're starting to stream your service, and then all of a sudden, oh no, catastrophe.
It's never urgent or anything.
No, not at all.
No.
And so we're gonna do this webinar, and you can sign up by going to webinar.streamingchurch.tv. Is that right, Steve?
That is correct.
Yeah, you can
Check
sign
that
up
out.
for that. And by the way, we have other webinars that we've done. We just did one yesterday. And so I think if you go to webinar.streamingchurch.tv, I think there's a link there as well.
Yeah.
To look
Or
at
you
other
can just
webinars.
go to streamingchurch.tv/webinar.
That's
That'll
right.
give you the post
That's
ones.
right. Yeah.
Ones that have
Right.
been done.
There you go. So yeah, so check out our webinars. We've got lots of things. We've got blogs and all that good stuff if you're new to us. And so anyhow, there you go. So check out that webinar coming up. It's a good thing to have in your pocket. From Crash to Comeback, September 17th. Just sign up at webinar.streamingchurch.tv. Okay, so today's guest wrote an article called Two Roads to Live Streaming Your Church Services, and that's primarily what we'll probably talk to him about today. He entered the world of streaming video back in 2007 with a simple laptop, mobile connection, and Flash Media Live Encoder. Oh, we remember Flash Media Live Encoder. Not a bad encoder. Learning the caveats and the pitfalls associated with live streaming. He has spent at least the last 10 years, probably more, researching equipment and honing the good old workflows to the easy to use and reliable ways. And so when he's not helping people stream, he's helping people protect themselves on the street. And so aside from being involved as I think you're a certified new tech and PepLinks person, you are also certified in Krav Maga. Is that how you say that?
Yep, Krav Maga, Israeli hand-to-hand combat and street protection. Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask you about that. We're going to talk to you about streaming video, but I want to ask you about that in a moment. So please welcome everyone to the Church Solutions Podcast, John Baselli. John, how are you today?
I am great, and thank you both for having me. This is a big honor.
Well, we're glad to have you. It's an honor for us. So Steve's gonna jump in here in just a second and ask a bunch of questions because he's kind of nerdy. And I say that in a loving way. But first, how did you get involved in the Krav Maga? I'm probably saying that wrong. But how did you get involved in this thing? Real quickly.
Yeah, so Krav Maga came to me when I was training for boxing back several years ago. Separated my shoulder. And one of those things where, I was recovering and I'm thinking to myself, gee, since one of my primary weapons is taken out and I have to go physical or hand to hand, I need to learn something that could help me get through it effectively and that works. And I did my research. Krav Maga kept coming up, and through the reputable schools, through one of the bigger affiliates, it just came and became a big part of my life. It's how I ended up meeting my best friend, who became my wife after several years of pounding each other on the mats. I mean, it was
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So do you ever break out every once in a while and just decide, hey, let's go at it?
We do, actually. She texted me earlier today and said, hey, do you want to go hit the mats for a little bit? And she wanted to work on some groundwork techniques because, part of Krav Maga is it's a system of fighting combatives from Muay Thai, we take our groundwork out of the Gracie School of Jiu-Jitsu. So a lot of our groundwork comes out of that. Of course, standard boxing, kicks are a little bit of Taekwondo and Muay Thai. And we put it all together in an actual system. So she's always like, hey, I saw this technique. I want to go over this with you before we show it to the students. Can we do it? I'm like, yeah, sure.
Wow.
So I'll probably end up having a black eye later today. So I'm glad we had this interview now.
Yeah. My son's a jujitsu. He's been doing it for
God bless him.
at least 5 years, more than 5 years. I think
You know,
I've been to a few of his tournaments and stuff.
I was going to ask about that. Did he get you into it?
No.
Do it. Look, people started this years ago that Krav people don't have a respect for Jits people and vice versa. That is
really?
Oh, it's the furthest thing from the truth because, Krav guys, we're about hitting hard, hitting fast, getting in, getting out. We don't traditionally like to grapple. Truth is more people are learning MMA and starting to watch this on TV. And honestly, training jiu-jitsu, people are becoming more effective in grappling and ground fighting. So it's very important that our affiliate got up to date. And actually our affiliate Alpha Krav Maga, the owner, Sam Sadeh, his big push was to make sure that our groundwork could equal the same belts in jiu-jitsu and if not exceed it. So we've been infusing that into the system over the last several years. And honestly, the response we've been getting from the students are great. So I have nothing but respect for Jits guys. And you know what? Please take a course with him. You'd have a blast, Steve. You're going to have a great time. You'll learn something.
Yeah. All right. He's been doing it for a long time. Yeah.
All
so
right.
the Krav Maga is, I guess it includes striking as well as because jiu-jitsu is no striking.
Right. It's all about striking fast, striking hard, getting in, getting out. So
are you wear pads? Do you have headgear? Okay.
No, we do. We train. We try to train as realistically, but also as safe as possible. So there's a lot of pad holding, a lot of punching past the face when we're doing different types of techniques. I mean, and then we have open sparring, which a lot of the better Krav schools do. And you're wearing the full headgear, you're wearing your 16-ounce gloves, or we're wearing the 7-ounce grapplers and shin guards, and they're going at it. It's full contact.
Wow. So as usual, I've gotten us off track.
Oh, wait. But it's a great little topic. We've got,
especially this day and age, everyone needs to know how to protect themselves.
That's true. That's true.
You'll probably relate to this. We are very good parents, very good friends that go to our church of the parents of Dominic Cruz. Do you know Dominic Cruz?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a big name in the MMA world.
Yeah.
Our wives used to teach him in Sunday school.
We did. Yeah.
Now that's funny. See, that goes to show you. I mean, there's no boundaries for this, right? You could have faith, but you still have the purpose to protect yourselves in any way you go. And that's the one thing I've learned throughout my journey in streaming and just meeting different people. Believe it or not, one hand really does wash the other. And I've met some great people. They're like, oh, you train Krav Maga. So how do I learn that? And, on the other side of the fence is, oh, you do video streaming. Oh, well, my church and my synagogue, my mosque, they want to get into streaming. How do we do it? So it's actually been a really good bridge builder for me in a lot of ways. And it's also fun. There's no questions. It is just a blast.
Oh, yeah.
So let's give us the background on John Baselli and Stream Dudes.
All right. So I love that Phil did a little research and found out that my first foray into streaming was in 2007. And you left a part of the story out that I think is very relevant. It was thrust upon me by one of my really good friends. If you ever seen the movie Van Wilder, it was loosely based on a guy named Johnny Luckner. Johnny Luckner was a longtime college student at UW-Whitewater. He was a very good friend of mine. And there was a website called Zanga at the time, and they said, hey, we want to give you a 24/7 webcam. And he's like, oh, that'd be so cool. Calls me over, goes, John, he goes, they sent me this laptop, they sent me this camera, they sent me, and that's it. It was a Sprint modem card. He goes, so can you figure this out? I go, sure. How much time do I have? He's like, you got 24 hours. We go live. I'm like, okay. And that was my first foray into it. And then I got into broadcasting school. And then when I was in a broadcasting school, I think they're now called Media Centers of America. At the time, it was called the Illinois Center for Broadcasting. And they had a TriCaster studio. Nobody knew how to use the thing. It was brand new in the box. None of the instructors wanted to try it. Nobody wanted to play with it. Well, I dug into it, and I kind of actually dug it. And I'm like, this is really a cool product. The school ended up hiring me as their tech guy. And I was in charge of overseeing the technology in several of their locations, working underneath their head IT guy, Paul. And to this day, I still have, some close ties to him, who's since left the company. In fact, our corporate attorney was my former boss and chief operating officer of that company too. So it's just funny how, through streaming, you're able to tie all these little ends together and just make everything work. And that's how Stream Dude started, really, was as an offshoot of, I work with that school. Chris, my business partner, he was working with New Tech for about 2 years, and he was pulled away by our boss at the time. And we tried it for a year, working underneath the boss. The boss was just not really, he wasn't keen about our way of doing business. And our way of doing business was very simple. We put ethics first. We were very big on not so much the bottom line, but rather about forming good relationships and building things over time. And unfortunately, he wanted quick returns and needed them. We felt, no, we'd rather build these relationships. And we ended up parting our ways. And that's how Stream Dude started.
Yeah. So Stream Dudes
10 years ago. Yeah.
What do you do for who? And, tell us kind of, we've got primarily church pastors and church tech leads. So we're streaming church. So we obviously just, we serve the church, but you serve the church as well as other organizations. What do you do?
Man.
Why would somebody call Stream Dudes?
Well, they would call us when they have nowhere else to go. That's what I usually tell people, is that the truth is, you go on Reddit, you go on any of these forum groups, these blogs, everyone seems to be an expert. And the truth is, nobody wants to put their own money on the line to prove if they're the expert or not. So why they call us is because they've gotten too much conflicting information, usually within 2 posts of each other. And they're like, hey, I just need some guidance. We have vetted different solutions that have honestly worked for many people. We've gone back to our previous clients and said, hey, there's new technology. Have you tried it? Yes, no. What are you embracing? And then we share that with people. And that's really it. It's a transference of knowledge. So I like to say, if you're destitute, we're the guys to call, because we have put our own dollars out on the line to test different products. I mean, I still have a box of stuff that I can't sell because honestly, it was just not good. And I just can't sell it. So it's here for spare stuff or a donation down the road.
Okay. So you sell equipment as well as provide consulting services and the whole gamut?
Everything. And,
okay.
The thing is, churches are one of our biggest verticals, but the truth is, we've serviced everything from the United Nations. We have 3 of our custom built vMix powered streaming boxes, our Dude Rack series. They're over in the United Nations. We also have several media organizations that we work with. Our systems are featured prominently in the Duncan Lounges at iHeartMedia Studios. We've got about 12 different studios right now that have our equipment. And we even helped the USCCA back in the day when they were first doing their Keep It Legal podcasts and things like that internally. And now they're doing amazing outreach to all these people. And it's great when I look back at my roster of everybody, because during COVID, it was such a mixed bag of people, from one-room churches to a production house that needed 10 systems delivered within 2 weeks. And our build team out of California, I love those guys. They are professional. They have been building systems since '94. We love them. And it's one of those things that you have this connection with these people, and then you could share this with your clients, this extra knowledge. And we love sharing that knowledge.
Okay. So it's cameras, it's encoders.
It's encoders, it's cameras, it's turnkey video production solutions. We just did a bunch of fly packs for the California Collegiate Athletic Association. So they took a bunch of different fly packs from us, and they've got pull-out monitors, they've got Peplink routers built into them, so for cellular connectivity. Their systems are awesome. And we don't just say we are a parts supplier. And there's times that I've even told people, hey guys, go to B&H, go to Amazon. You can get it cheaper and faster than what we can get it through our means. I don't mind telling people that. But when it comes to, hey, how do I make it all work? What do I do? That's where we shine. And that was actually the crux of the whole article, was about helping people save time and money by not playing the trial and error game.
Okay, so let's get into this article. Before we run out of time, Phil's going to want to talk broadcasting. Phil's got a big background in broadcasting, but let's jump into this. So kind of the nature of this article, there are two roads. Kind of give us an overview of what those two roads look like. And I think churches are choosing one of those two roads today. So what is that all about?
So the first road is obviously going it alone. You always have a few volunteers that they lurk in these Facebook user groups. They go in these different things and they start gathering knowledge. And a lot of them, honestly, do pretty good. They get it right for the most part. But sometimes when there's one little glitch, they all of a sudden think it is the biggest, most catastrophic emergency. We got to change this out. Oh, it's all this, it's all that. And it becomes a panic and it becomes a buying spree in a lot of cases. The other road is by working through somebody like us who could consult you, get you the equipment you need, but also support you once you purchase the equipment. So that way you're not hitting the panic button. Oh my goodness, I got to go order a whole new system. I got to go to my parishioners and get a donation for another $20,000 worth of gear. Well, like, hit the brakes. You don't need that. It just might be a simple driver. It just might be this. It just might be one little thing. And one of the things I will touch on real quick is we're very well versed in vMix. And people are like, well, I could build my own system for less money. And you know what? They're 100% correct. The difference is that our build team has been building systems since '94, and they've been building for us through vMix for the last 6 years. We've seen certain components not play well with other components. And there's nothing documented. There's no rhyme or reason. Certain motherboards would have bottlenecks, other ones wouldn't. And it's one of those things where part of the cost of buying a system through us is that we've already sniffed out the bull. And people will try to always, oh, I need a 1200 watt power supply. Your system is drawing 650 watts max. Why would you need a 1200 watt power supply? Oh, because I read that. No, power budget dictates you may only need a 750, something like that. And it sounds crazy. It sounds, ridiculous. What's a power supply? Well, it all adds in because bigger power supply, more consumption, more heat. And now if the system doesn't have proper and adequate cooling, now you start having other problems. And it's little stuff like that. Like we found that using the Quadro series graphics cards gave amazing performance, nothing against the GE Force, but because of the blower style, they also had additional properties with drawing the heat out of the system. And this is stuff that most people don't really think about when they're building something. And to the ones that do, they'll never call us. And I hope they never do, because it means that they're doing it right. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with DIYers who take a very structured approach to doing things. The problem is, unfortunately, you have one person that's very methodical. They'll lay everything out. They know exactly their path. And then they get another job or they move. And now you have another volunteer who comes in and goes, I'm taking all this and throwing it out. When they have perfectly good gear, and all they may need to do is add one small component for like $300 that could change their whole workflow, save them thousands of dollars. And I'm okay pointing people in that direction too, saying, look, all you need is this, bird dog encoder or this bird dog decoder. You're done. That's it. Bird dog play. Here you go. Have a nice day. And most people don't think like that. They're trying to get matrices put in there and they're going crazy with all this stuff when honestly, I believe in the KISS approach of just keep it simple.
We run into this quite a bit with helping churches. So the article, again, just to remind people, and if they want to look at the article, it's called 2 Roads to Live Streaming Your Church Services. You can just Google it, I'm sure. Let me ask you a question. In the article, I think you outlined some stages, I think 5 stages a church might be going through when attempting to live stream their services on their own. Can you maybe elaborate on some of the most common challenges churches face during those stages?
Well, okay, so during the stages, it's usually like trying to start with, goal setting. That's always the first stage. And if it's not, it should be. I tell everyone, find a stream that you like and then try to emulate it, reverse engineer that stream. And what happens is people think, wow, oh my goodness, they've got cinema cameras. I need to get cinema cameras. And it's like, no. At the end, you have to understand your audience. Are they going to get dizzy and sick because you've got 20 cameras and you're cutting shots like a music video? Or do you want something a little bit more nuanced? Then you also have to think about who is actually going to be using the system day in and day out. And that's a thing that a lot of people miss the mark on. You have one engineer or one tech dude that gets it and says, this is how we're doing it. Then they leave. And then
Yes.
the rest of the people are stuck with this and go, well, I don't know what he did. And we have about a dozen clients right now that has happened to. And I feel terrible for them because Rusty, our head of support, which I love this guy to death, man. He is salt of the earth, total Midwesterner from Iowa. We love him to death, but he's also an educator too. So he knows how to break things down for them to understand. But even then, I always hear that, I got it. Well, I wouldn't have done it this way. And he's like, well, we understand, but we could revisit the whole workflow, but it's going to cost you a bunch of money and new equipment. Or we work with what you have. You just spend a few extra minutes learning what each component does and its role in the production. And once you understand that, it becomes easy. So to answer your question, at what stages do people get stuck? Unfortunately, I've seen them get stuck at every stage. It starts with the elders arguing over the cost. Well, do we really need this? And then it comes to somebody that's like, yes, we do. I read that I need this. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we're laughing because we can totally relate to
Oh,
all
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
and I'm intrigued by your next upcoming seminar because you are 100% on the money with that. When I heard the title, I died laughing to myself. I'm like, yeah, that churches need that. And the thing is, at the end of the day, nobody's out there trying to win an Oscar. All you're doing is sharing your church's message with the world. As long as people can see and hear it, they will feel what you're putting out there. And I think people forget that sometimes, that the message is as important as the production. Honestly, in my opinion, it's more important than the production. Don't distract people by overselling the message. Let the message sell itself and then slowly grow. And that's the other thing too. I see people try to go too big, too crazy, too fast. Start small, build, get comfortable.
Mm-hmm. So you threw out a couple of terms earlier that I hadn't heard much, but I think I know what you're talking about. You said a fly pack, and that would be something I assume that's very portable. That's what it's all about? So I guess my question is kind of along the breadth of, if I was to go from camera to switcher to encoders to computers that are supporting this thing to digital video recorders, and I assume that's all in your
Correct.
field of view here.
Yeah, so that's all within my field of view, but also to go back to your fly pack question, yeah, picture taking all those individual components, racking them up in a portable rolling case. And basically you have your whole video production that you could lift up, put on your desk and produce right from a location, pack it up, roll it to the next location, and away you go. So yeah, it's funny you mentioned about having the different peripherals and going into a recorder, going into a video switch and everything. I'll be honest, NDI really changed a lot for people in a great way. It's certainly a source of many of these grays right along here, but at the same time, it's also been one of the biggest time savers and money savers for people too. I'm seeing people even talking about, Dante AV, not to even put them in the corner. Dante AV is actually very good. But NDI, let's face it, VizRT did a great job with marketing it once they bought out New Tech and really getting it out there. So the number one question I get is, how can NDI work for me? And then we take everything and break it down into those components and say, well, if you have an all-in-one streaming solution, you could record here. You don't need an external recorder. But if you have a more simplified switcher, then having that external recorder makes the world of sense. It's all just a matter of what works best for them, and not overthinking it. What are your goals? I mean, are you just archiving, or are you going to be selling, like, especially like Christmas and Easter services? I could see something like that. Or let's say you have a special choir that comes in from out of state and you're hosting them as a guest. That is something, yeah, you want that production to be screaming good, and you need the extra gear for that. But if you're only doing that once a year, is the investment worth it, is the bigger question, or is there a better way of doing it?
So to not lose hopefully too many of the technical or non-technical people,
Sure.
NDI, give us a brief overview when it hit the scene, what it is, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So NDI came on the scene a few years ago. What it is an IP protocol that allows for ultra low latency video streaming over your network. The thing that's great about NDI is there's a lot under the hood, but as a everyday user, you really don't need to know much other than no firewalls and same subnets. Like, that's really an oversimplification, but that's really all it takes. And it allows video to be sent across networks. So let's say, for instance, you have a church and then you have a cry room and you want to send video to that cry room. Well, before you would have to run SDI cables or HDMI cables, and then you call your engineer, you got to pull permits sometimes. Now, all you have to do is just get like a little decoder box that goes from Ethernet, which plugs in one end, to HDMI on the other, plugs into your monitor, and away you go. Now you've got a very affordable and honestly reliable way to send video to that other room. And it works the opposite way. You could set a camera up outside in the parking lot. Maybe you have a congregation hall or a little chapel that goes alongside the sanctuary. Put a camera up in the chapel for those special services, and then be able to stream it back to your system without having to run wires. It's just a very easy way to connect video from one point to another.
The weakness to this, though, is if your network's not very strong or stable, right?
Correct. Well, that's part of it. Or you have overzealous IT professionals, and that's the number one thing I ran into in a lot of the bigger church campuses, and of course the collegiate space. Well, why do I need this on my network? And why does this? It's like, look, it's just going to go from this IP to this IP. Well, I need what ports I need. Well, here's the port range. Have fun. And because NDI, when it was first started, was to be as simple as possible, there really weren't too many white papers on it initially. Then as time went on, we started seeing them now. And I think the latest one was for 5.5, if I recall. And then now I know they're got 6 coming out, so that's going to be probably re-released too. And that's a relief for a lot of the IT professionals, because I've been able just to hand them that sheet and say, here you go. Here's everything you need to know about the protocol. But for the average user, all they need to know is if both devices are on the same network with the same subnet, 9 out of 10,
We're going to talk. Yeah. It was a big breakthrough. I mean, because before it was, prior to it, you say, well, I've got to run an HDMI cable. Oh, that will only run 50 feet, or I don't know what the numbers were, before I have to build a repeater or something like that. And so there was all these just major challenges with getting video to different places. So NDI really just said, hey, I've got my Ethernet network at the church.
Well, then if you remember when you used to have like the base T stuff, like, you were running video over, Cat 6 or Cat 5 cable at the time. And the problem was with that, it was great, but it still had higher latency times. And I had a church call me once. They had a matrix that was like a 1 to 7. And they're like, we got a big problem. I said, well, what's the problem? They said, well, people are hearing the beat from the bass in the sanctuary, but in the breakout rooms, they're hearing it about a second later. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you other than it's just protocol at the time. And I'm really sorry, but that's the best you can get. I said, otherwise, you're going to have to run SDI cables, and then we could convert it out to HDMI. I'm like, well, how much is that? gave him a rough estimate. But he's like, I think I could get used to it. I go, there you go. And I like, and I hate to say it. I mean, it sounds very jerkish of me to say, but it's true. It's like, you have to set expectations of people too, that, like I always tell, like some of my pastors I have a much tighter relationship with, I'll be like, look, if they start, I have no problems with it, but I'm like, does your tech team have a problem? No, but my congregation. So I'll tell you what, offer to do a fundraiser and see who writes a check. I said, because you'll see real quick. Unfortunately, it's playing a little hardball, but you'll see very quickly how much of a problem it really is for somebody. Because if it bothers them enough, they will help you fix it. If not, they're just there to complain. Then you just smile, bless them, and send them on their way. I mean, that's the best you could do, right?
So, other question. I mean, obviously, you guys handle the high end, the big guys. You got stuff in the United Nations, and I'm sure the bigger churches have no problem. Are you working with any smaller churches, or how small do you go? What kind of service would a smaller church?
I've ran systems into one-room churches, and we have had customers and still have customers that just like, hey, we just want one camera. And I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at any of the stuff from Atomos coming out, but like they have this thing called the Shogun Ultra. It's a digital video recorder with a 7-inch screen, but now it's got NDI support. And we immediately saw the sign with this thing and we said, wow, this is really cool, because now you could use this as not only a high quality recorder, hook it up to your existing cameras, but now if you have an existing camera and you want to share it over the network, you can do that now. So you take a product like that, and let's say we put that into a church. It's like, I think, $1,400 or something like that on the high end, or $1,499. You're like, look, this is a start. You already have existing gear. Start with this, because now you could record and now you could stream it to, say, a system running vMix, Wirecast, OBS, whatever you're using. And now you have a very affordable way. Oh, now it's time to grow. You want to add another one? Well, okay, now you had a taste of NDI. You can now add this to your camera and bring it back into your workflow. And the cool thing is, now that NDI is becoming so common, I'm seeing it trickle down into lower price switchers too. And I mean, I've seen switchers for under $1,000 that support NDI now. And we've been testing some. They're really good. I'm not afraid to admit it. They're actually really good. So for my churches that have a budget of $5,000, that's it, no nonsense. That's what I'm starting to recommend to them, are solutions like that, because this is where we differentiate ourselves. We're not going to say to a church or to a school or to anyone, you're too small for us. We'll never say that, because here's the truth. Everyone grows. You put a seed in the ground, you water it, you take care of it, it will grow. Their productions will grow, and they will remember that we helped them through that first stage. And you know what? I don't care if they never come back to us, but I care about if their productions grow and they have a path of growth, because to me, that's key. And you do good to others, it always comes back to you one way or another. And I do live my life by the golden rule as much as I can, when I'm not throwing an elbow in somebody's face and Krav Maga. But, hey, doing to others, you attack me. Fair game,
All right, so I don't mean to cut you off. We're starting to run out of time here, but and I want to make sure people know how to get a hold of you. But before I do that, what do you see as the future for churches with streaming video? I mean, do you see any trends coming up, or something that, when it comes to houses of worship, anything coming up here?
So it's interesting. I'm seeing a different two paths. I'm seeing people go more cell phones and app-based solutions and things like that. Like, I'm seeing them break away from their TriCasters or their bigger streaming boxes, doing this stuff. And then I'm seeing the complete opposite, where people are like, well, we want 4K cameras. Okay, great. Well, we want full frame sensors. Okay. And now I'm seeing an interesting split of people spending more money. But the one common denominator with everything all seems to come back to networking, and everything coming from IP. And that is the trend that I've been seeing over the last few years. And it just seems to be getting stronger and stronger and stronger. as the price of NDI licensing comes down for manufacturers, it is now becoming more democratized across products of a broad spectrum. So to answer your question, I'm seeing two trends. I'm seeing IP video, which we've been seeing even before COVID. But I'm really seeing two different paths of people either going completely affordable with app-based solutions or going high-end. And they're using cinema cameras. They're using the real top quality stuff because they're taking ownership in what they're producing, because they know now it is believe it or not, even though we talked about the message, and I always said it's all about the message, and I do believe in that. But when you have three other churches in your back door, basically all competing for people's attention or to get their message out, now you got to up the ante.
Yeah,
and they see it,
Yeah. All right. I always try to discourage small churches from going 4K, but that's another topic.
I'm the same way. I will, that is the hill I will die on about 4K. I am like, guys, the only time 4K should enter the equation if you can't afford more than one camera and you start using region of interest. That's where 4K has value, merit, and makes a ton of sense for a small church. Other than that, it is a waste of data.
Okay. Well,
Just in my opinion.
we should cover that another podcast. So look, the company is Stream Dudes. John Baselli is our guest today. John, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, you could just go to our website at streamdudes.com. We're on Facebook. You'll see Chris or myself on LinkedIn. Streamdudes has a LinkedIn presence too. That's honestly the best way to get in touch with us, because you could see a little bit about who we are, what we do, and how we help people. And you could also look at our roster of clients. And the reason we share our clients is not because we want to pat ourselves on the back. We're not afraid to share our clients, provided they're cool with it. You could contact them and ask, hey, what was the experience like working with these guys? Is it really a good experience or was it bad? And, I'm honestly open to all criticism, and I'll be very pleased to say that very few people have left with a bad taste in their mouth. We have been able to work out almost everything with every client.
All right. Awesome. Well, we appreciate your time today, John. Thank you so much for being with us today. And
my pleasure.
Folks, you can always reach out to us here at streamingchurch.tv. If you want to get a hold of John and didn't catch any of that stuff, just send us an email. That's simple. support@streamingchurch.tv. All right. Well, for Steve Lacy and John Baselli, I'm Phil Thompson. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us today on the Church Solutions Podcast. Be sure and subscribe to us if you have not already, and you'll never miss an episode. So take care of yourselves and each other, and we will talk to you soon.